Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Ever since Scrappy's come into the league, he's been talking trash on absolutely anyone he can get his hands on, and certainly over the last couple of months, Scumpy versus Scrappy has been rather a big discussion point. Scump going at Scrappy's neck, Scrap clapping back, then he retired Scump way back in the Modern Warfare 2 days when Scump decided to call it a day. Nature asked the question, Seth, is Scrappy better than you? What do you think about it? Scump has a rather emphatic response. Very much intriguing your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Quickly here on 04, he's joined the Seattle Surge recently and has clearly been at least part of the reason why they've made massive strides. Are they a top 4 team? No. They're still losing out to guys like the New York Subliners, but generally against the teams below them, Surge have been very impressive. They have a pretty unique style, they play at a really fast pace, their search and destroy is good, they're fun to watch, like they've taken it to the next level. aBeZy is now more comfortable in the role that he should have been running all along. Hook's been playing well, Brezzy's there to support, and 04 is a very good decision maker. Now, I think it was Slasher a while ago who said he wanted to bring 04 into the Boston Breach earlier in the season because good search and destroy mines, that probably would have helped them out a fair bit. But they decided not to do that. They got rid of Slasher anyway, and 04 therefore didn't go to Boston. So just in this clip, he basically says Boston and Rocker, those were the two teams that were interested in 04. They didn't necessarily give him an offer, but they were interested. Rocker as well, which kind of makes sense because their search and destroy was pretty bad as well. I guess they were considering 04 and Lins as like an SMG duo, which would have been interesting to think about how that could have gone had they, they not brought Stadion and all this. And it's not like their search and destroy Rocker has got massively better since then, but of course, they'd have come at a good round 11 victories last weekends. There's also this I wanted to go through quickly, the online match league records for every CDL franchise, because we saw a couple of these stats the other day. This is how it looks for all of the teams in the league. So FaZe, their online match record is 73-20, which is, really good. It's better than I'm pretty sure basically everybody, which should of course be no real surprise, and they have therefore made the winners bracket every single time. So out of 16 attempts, they've obviously made winners every time. Now, you're expecting here the winners bracket make percentage to be higher than the league match win percentage, just because 8 teams make it to winners, whereas, your chances theoretically of winning a league match are like 50-50 if you're an average team. So what we should see here, for example, for Boston, is that despite being negative in their online league games, 30-38, they still make winners most of the time out of 11 tries, with being the Boston Breach. Of course, they came in one season after Cold War. They've made winners 8 times, which is pretty, that's not a bad return for Boston. Like, in the history of their franchise, they've been pretty good online. Like, they've been okay. 30-38 is respectable enough. They've made winners enough of the time, but they've just not really done anything with those winners bracket starts. With all the players they've had, with all the iterations of the rosters they've had, the Nero, Awakening, Vivid days, with Zinni was there and then he was gone, and then they made changes. They got a top 4, then they blew it up. It's like, Boston have just mismanaged so much over the last couple of years because they've had the potential, but they've just never really been there. Ravens, by the way, okay, as being Carolina, 7-18, which isn't great to be fair, 1-3 making the winners bracket so far. Dallas Empire, back in the day, they were 17-8 and made winners 5 out of 5 times, of course, back in the Cold War season when the online qualifiers were actually a thing, because MW19 was a rather different story. It's interesting that Florida, their online league record is actually very similar to Boston, but they've only made winners on far fewer occasions, only 5 times. So I guess when they get slammed big time. Ravens had a pretty ugly one, 3 out of 13. Gorillas are 6 out of 16. So interesting, isn't it? Gorillas have made winners 6 times, which feels like quite a lot. But I guess that probably does add up. Although their online record is tragic, right? Like, this is actually abysmal, isn't it, really? 26 in 60 at like 28% win rate. It's really not the best. 94 online league matches they've played to win 26 of them. Yeah, not pretty. Thieves, pretty interesting for them. They're basically even all time in their online league games. They've made winners still. I mean, they've had a couple of stinker stages, Thieves, even when it was the great team with Kenny and Envoy and Drazah and Octane. They went 0-5 at one stage and starting losers. This is Miami, of course, as Miami. This is the Subliners. Of course, they've been all 16 because they've been the same team. They've made winners most of the time. OpTic Chicago made it every time back in Cold War, weren't the best online. And this is the most recent. OpTic Texas, Paris Legion, not the best. Let's quickly move on from that. Minnesota Rocker, Seattle Surge, and Toronto Ultra to close out the list. So I thought that was interesting for you guys to have a look at. This was another debate, speaking of the Dallas Empire. What if Dallas Empire as a brand were to somehow return and there to be another team to come into the CDL? What about this question? If these 4 players came out of retirement for Black Ops 6 and the Dallas Empire as the 13th team or whatever it would be, what would their ceiling be? Because technically, Dallas Empire could be a brand owned by OpTic. So, okay, they probably wouldn't allow one organization to own 2 teams, but whatever, let's just play the game. Scump and Formal, TTP, they're back, and assume that they're motivated, because I think Scump and Formal could still play at a very, very high level, and we see this with Formal in Halo and in COD over the last, few years, but certainly in Halo over the last 3 or so years, that if he's motivated, then he's still going to be an absolute top player. And I think the same is true for Scump. Question I guess I would have is, like, how is Octane and Formal going to work as an AR duo? Because I'm sure they'll find a way, but they're pretty similar players. The comms would be absolutely unbelievable. Can you imagine? Like, Scump and Zuma would have to say nothing. Octane and Formal would be doing all the human UAV work. That would be just incredible to go to a listen-in with those 2 as the AR duo. And Scump and Zuma would be a pretty damn nice SMG duo. Like, imagine we were playing Advanced Warfare. This team would be categorically unbelievable. But it's obviously a different time nowadays. Like, how would they fare, right? Doug says easily they'd be able to win championships. Maybe Doug comes in as the coach as well to round out the team. But it's always a tough question, right? Because I think it's a question of, like, motivation more so than it is of talent, because that team, of course, in their prime, like, no problem, they can be competing for championships with the top teams in the league today. But, realistically, if they actually were to come back, would they be that successful? They'd probably make some Sundays. Would they win anything? I don't know. And I imagine that if you asked Scrappy that question, he would probably tell you, yeah, I'd be slamming this guy's Scump every single day of the week. So these 2 have been going back and forth a lot over the last couple of months. Scrappy made the point back in December that he retired the king, right? Now, even Scrappy himself must believe that's something of an exaggeration, but he's still running with the storyline and he's still going with it, and we'll see that here in just a couple of seconds. So as a result, Scump's been clapping back. His neck was a little too long for this one, and all this stuff that's been happening here over the last couple of months. So I wanted to share this clip here that came out of Nadeshot's stream, which is always highly entertaining, as we full well know by the number of clips that I put of him at the end of the videos from time to time. And as Nadeshot asked Scump, look, who's better, Scrappy or you? And Scump has a pretty damning response.
What do you think was better, you or Scrappy?
Not even close.
Get fucked, Scrap.
See, Scrappy's hilarious, bro. There's a video of him when he was like 13 years old saying that he modeled his playstyle after me or something. And then he comes in and he talks shit. Unbelievable. We got the receipts, Scrappy Doodle.
Hell yeah.
I'll never forget that video. Seriously.
Rimbot, he says, which pro would you compare your playstyle to? Which pro? Probably Scumpy. Cause I play OBJ and he like kind of plays OBJ, I guess, but like he slays in Hill, so do I. So yeah, that's that.
So obviously in terms of career and championship victories, there is like absolutely no debate here at all in terms of the respective performances. Scump says he was nowhere near my level, which obviously in terms of like accomplishments and accolades, it's very difficult for any of the new gen guys to get anywhere near Scump's level, potentially ever. Like the amount that he won on the OpTic team back in the day, obviously the 1 ring that he's got, the Scrappy doesn't have any, but then all the, 30-odd championships that he won outside of that. And also being the best player by far on a very difficult role for absolutely years, it's tough to get past Scump, obviously. But Scrappy has made the argument that, well, those guys that Scump was playing back in the day, that was the plumber era. It was plumbers, it was electricians, and people are making this argument right now in every sport. It's not a new phenomenon, but Scrappy's opinion was, and he made this point to Zuma, that yeah, you were playing trash cans, the guys I play are much better today, and I just don't really see how this argument holds much water. I know there is the argument that, look, the nowadays players, they are salaried, right, they're all salaried professionals, but you can't tell me seriously you're watching teams like the Boston Breach, you're watching teams like the Los Angeles Guerrillas play COD right now, and you're saying, wow, like, this is a really high level of Call of Duty that's being played, way more high level than it was back in the day for the teams that were top 12. Absolutely no way. You look at some of the names names on the teams that were top 12 back in the day. Like, there were some solid teams and solid players back then. So I don't buy this whole plummet era idea, but that, I guess, would be Scrap's only real argument to say, look, I'm better than Scump because I'm doing it now in a better era than Scump is. And a pretty handy clapback for Scump to have this clip, obviously, where Scrappy says way back in the day that, you know, he would compare his playstyle to Scump, and effectively implies as well that he was kind of molding some of the way that he plays on Scump's ideas. Scrappy, though, hits the replies. He says, one game and he was off to the casting couch, he says. So this was the series in question when they played at the early part of Modern Warfare 2. Now, of course, people in the replies are like, wow, one series back at Major 1 2023 in Modern Warfare 2, not the best competitive game, you know, red dots, all this stuff. Who really cares, right? And maybe that's a fair argument, but of course, after this tournament, OpTic bowed out, and Scump then decided, you know what, I shouldn't have ran it back with this team in the off-season. We should have just called it a day, and that's what Scump decided to do shortly afterwards. So, sure, did Scrappy play a part in Scump's decision to retire? Yes, I guess, but was it more so about the state of the team? Was it more so about Scump just not feeling the vibes on playing this game for an entire season? Probably absolutely, and I don't really think it mattered if Scrappy dropped a 1.6 on his head or not. I think Scump after this tournament was probably going to call it a day regardless, and you know, admit his mistake from the off-season, and therefore leave the team in, well, initially absolute shambles, and then Dashy came back, they brought in Hook, they brought in Ghosty, and the rest from there, of course, is history. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Jetpack as a field upgrade. Oh, hell no. A jetpack as a field upgrade. Imagine being a trophy player while everyone else gets jetpacks. Yeah, nah. Jetpack as a field upgrade sounds horrible. Why would we give other people just more movement? It sounds like Black Ops 4 all over again. Sounds like Black Ops 4. Oh, what's this guy have? A Maddox? Oh, and he has a Semtex? Oh, and he has a War Machine? Yeah, no, yeah. No wonder why everybody who runs War Machine is at the top of the damage leaderboards. And then everybody goes, oh my God, this guy's in the top 5 of damage. He's the best player of the game, yada, yada. Well, brother, he's running fucking Semtex War Machine. Fucking how you doing? I'm running Crash. Beep, boop, 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 boop. I'm whipping out an iPad. Giving my teammates a little health boost. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how the fuck are people sitting here talking about damage leaderboards? You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, Black Ops 4 was the worst, bro. I'm sorry, bro. The stim shot, the 5v5, the unbalanced specialists. Some people had way better guns, way better specialists. Bro, it was all politics. It was all fucking politics. Who's using the best shit, bro? Not the worst. It wasn't the worst. But in my opinion, Black Ops 4 is the most overrated competitive COD of all time. It is. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I'll stand by it. The most overrated competitive COD was Black Ops 4, bro. It was Black Ops 4. You know what I'm saying? And it is what it is, bro. It is between the stim shot, the 5v5, and the stupid fucking specialists. Some people had godlike specialists. Some people had shit specialists. It was just not it, bro. It was just not it. It was just not it. Like, was it a good game? Sure. You know what I'm saying? But that just wasn't that's not my idea. That's not how I look at competitive Call of Duty. That game did not play out like a normal competitive Call of Duty. It was a lot different. It was a lot different.